Hello and welcome to the class 5 of most important current affairs for the UPSC Prelims 2020 on the Evolution IAS. In this lecture, we will be doing these 5 topics from the month of May 2020, and these 5 topics are Global Nutrition Report and State of the World's Forest Report. These two reports will go a bit longer. Then comes our star rating of garbage free cities released by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and this is related to your Swachh Bharat mission only. Then comes the report Open Budget Survey 2019. As the name says it all, this is about the openness of a country's budget, the transparency of a country's budget, the information which is in public domain related to budget. Those all things are seen by this survey, and we will be particularly stressing on India's condition in this Open Budget Survey. The last report will be Energy Transition Index by World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, the newest challenge to United Nations organization is World Economic Forum conducting so many reports, so many summits, so many meetings. So that World Economic Forum has released Energy Transition Index. We will see this, and we will see India's situation in Energy Transition Index particularly. So first of all, start with Global Nutrition Report. Before going into this Global Nutrition Report, we need to understand the story. You all know about World Health Organization, right? So World Health Organization, the decision-making body of World Health Organization is known as World Health Assembly. So World Health Assembly in 2012 released some nutrition-related targets that we have to complete by 2025. There were 6 nutrition-related targets to be completed by 2025, and those nutrition targets are known as Global Nutrition Targets. So every country said that they will be working towards achieving those global nutrition targets. But is it possible that we do not conduct any midterm survey and leave upon the countries? No, it is not possible. We need to check how much progress we have made towards our goals. So that is why this Global Nutrition Report came. This Global Nutrition Report is a multi-stakeholder initiative. What do we mean by multi-stakeholder initiative? Governments, civil society, and some private stakeholders also which are related to malnutrition in different countries. So this multi-stakeholder initiative will assess the progress towards achieving or meeting our 2025 global nutrition targets which were established by World Health Assembly through the World Health Organization. So got all the things. So यहाँ पे कंडीशन क्या है, ये जो ग्लोबल न्यूट्रिशन रिपोर्ट आएगा, first of all, this report will measure the gap we have according to this 2025 targets and how much achievement we have done by 2020. So first of all, this report will see whether the governments and the civil societies and private stakeholders are on right path or not. There is a gap or not. And also, this report will inspire those organizations, right? This report will inspire those stakeholders that please get inspired and work towards achievement of your goals. And if it says that, if the report says that no, you are not working at the right path, that means this report also holds them accountable. That is what holds stakeholders accountable on the commitments they had made towards tackling malnutrition. So first of all, they said in 2012 that we will be working towards achieving these 6 nutrition related targets, that is global nutrition targets, by 2025. And if they are not working towards those targets, or if they are lagging behind, this particular global nutrition report will hold them accountable that see, you are not working on the right path. So we need to know the what nutrition targets we have in these 6 nutrition targets. The first one is, these are the 6 nutrition targets. Okay, these are known as global nutrition targets. You should have an idea. First one is reducing a stunting by 40% in children under 5. So suppose if we have a stunting of 100 children under 5 in a particular area, or maybe globally also. So now we have to reduce it to 60. That is means reducing by 40%. So do you know what is a stunting? A stunting means low height or short height for a particular weight or average weight. That is known as stunting. Then what is wasting? Wasting means for a particular weight you have low height, that is called wasting. So that's both are related to body mass index only, but a stunting is shorter height for a particular weight, and wasting is low weight for a particular height. So we have to reduce a stunting by 40% in children under the age of 5. That is our first global nutrition target. Then second one is related to anemia in women. You know the reproductive age of women, 19 to 49. So the report says that, not report, actually the global nutrition target says that we have to reduce the prevalence of anemia by 50%, that is halving it among the women in the age group of 19 to 49 years. And the third target is ensure 30% reduction in low birth weight. There are many children in poor countries particularly who are born with low birth weight. So we have to reduce that incidence by 30%. Fourth report deals with no increase in childhood overweight. Overweight condition is also very bad, so we have to make it static. We don't have to increase the childhood overweight condition, and it should remain as low as possible. Children should not be overweight, and particularly in this situation today, what overweight condition in children we have to maintain that. We don't have to increase that. Even maintaining that will help the children's health. That is fine. So fourth report is that. Fourth target is that. Fifth target, increase the rate of exclusive breastfeeding in the first 6 months up to at least 50%. What does that mean? You know, a child till the month of 6 should be exclusively fed on mother's breastfeeding, exclusively fed on mother's milk. So that is what we have to increase at least by 50%. If there is more increase than 50%, then fine, but at least there should be increase of 50%. In what? First 6 months, the child should be fed exclusively on mother's milk. Reduce and maintain childhood wasting to, I told you already the definition of wasting, so I'm not going to repeat it. Reduce and maintain childhood wasting to less than 5%. We have to reduce the childhood wasting below 5% extent. The report says that there is huge inequity in global nutrition, and also in the financing for nutrition we have a problem. What does that mean, inequity in global nutrition? That means different strata of society, have different kind of malnutrition problem. Suppose the urban people, the rich people are not having that much malnutrition in their percentage of population as present in rural population or the poor people. That is called inequity in global nutrition. That inequity in global nutrition means that there is a strong evidence for the presence of nutrition inequities in health system, food system, financing system, and also inequalities in all forms of malnutrition. There is inequity in global nutrition. That terms means these things, these inequities. Second is financing for nutrition. The report says that current level of nutrition financing are no longer increasing. It has become a static. The governments are not spending more on financing of the nutritional problems, and this is far below the levels required to deliver on global targets. Global targets we have to complete by 2025, but the financing for the nutrition problem has become a static, and if this continues we are not going to achieve these global targets. The report says that. Also the report says that there is growing fund gap for the addressing malnutrition related to overweight and non-communicable disease in poorer countries. Poor countries also have a problem that they have malnutrition also related to overweight condition also, and non-communicable diseases also. Non-communicable diseases also cause malnutrition, or maybe are caused by malnutrition. And second, overweight condition does not mean that the child is getting the proper nutrition. Overweight can happen due to fat, due to cholesterol, and maybe also due to carbohydrate also. But even an obese person or overweight person can have deficiency of iron, can have deficiency of calcium, can have deficiency of vitamins. So these are the problems in overweight malnutrition condition and non-communicable disease called malnutrition. There is growing funding gap. The countries are not spending, particularly in the poor countries, funding is not growing in this malnutrition related to overweight and non-communicable disease condition. Now see some more data. The report says that under the age of 5, that means under the children of the age of 5, stunting is 149 million in number. And then wasting is 49.5 million in number, and overweight condition is present in 40.1 million children. That means stunting is the greatest of all, 149 million, and then comes wasting, and then comes overweight. Obviously overweight के लिए कुछ तो न्यूट्रिशन चाहिए होगी ना, कुछ तो चाहिए होगा, उसके लिए कुछ तो खर्च करना होगा. तो ओवरवेट वाली कंडीशन सबसे कम होगी, लेकिन स्टंटिंग वाली कंडीशन सबसे ज्यादा होगी, जिसमें कि शॉर्ट हाइट होगा. वेस्टिंग वाली कंडीशन जिसमें कि लो वेट होगा, वो जो कंडीशन है 49.5 मिलियन चिल्ड्रन में है, और लीस्ट है 40.1 मिलियन कंडीशन ओवरवेट वाली अंडर द एज ऑफ 5 फॉर द चिल्ड्रन. Recently, a new problem has occurred. The new problem is that there are many children who are facing this double burden of malnutrition. What is double burden of malnutrition? Double burden. One burden is that there is undernutrition. Okay. Second burden is that apart from having undernutrition, the children are overweight or obese also. That is the problem. You can be overweight, I already told you. You can be overweight by taking fat and carbohydrate, but still then you can be lacking on for example iron, calcium, vitamins. So these things will produce the condition of undernutrition. Okay, and still you can be overweight. That is the condition of being double burden of malnutrition. That is the condition of presence of coexistence of undernutrition alongside overweight or obesity condition. Also, the largest disparity in stunting, in this particular condition of a stunting of malnutrition, the largest disparity is present in the society of Nigeria, Indonesia, and our own country, India, is also having the largest disparity in a stunting condition. Also, the report says that, okay, fine, there is no country in this world, obviously we are talking about the developing countries. So there is no country which is on the right path to meet its 2025 global nutrition targets. There is no such country. Also, we are not even on the right path of achieving 4 diet-related non-communicable disease indicators. What is diet-related non-communicable disease? The disease which is caused by, particularly the non-communicable disease which is caused by your diet deficiency. Those are, for example, blood pressure, diabetes. Diabetes is a common disease which is non-communicable and related to diet and health style, lifestyle. So for these conditions, non-communicable diseases which are related to diet, we have 4 indicators. Salt intake. For example, a person having salt intake very high is always prone to raise in blood pressure. That is the problem. Salt intake also and sweet intake also is creating the problem of non-communicable disease. So salt intake is not decreasing. Raised blood pressure average is also increasing, diabetes condition is also increasing, and obesity condition is also indicating. These 4 are indicators of non-communicable diseases which are caused by diet problems. And the report says that there is no country which is on the right path to reduce these 4 conditions or 4 targets or 4 indicators of this type of diseases. So let's talk about India specifically. Obviously, out of the 88 countries, no country is on the right path to achieve this nutrition targets by 2025. So India is also among them. So India is likely to miss the global nutrition targets by 2025. India is also the country with the highest rates of domestic inequalities in malnutrition. What is inequality in malnutrition? Your society has a different strata of rich, poor, very poor, and Antodaya. All these 4 strata have different levels of extent of malnutrition, that is called inequality in malnutrition, and India has the highest rates of domestic, or you can simply say that India has the highest rate of inequality in malnutrition. In inequality of malnutrition, India is at the top, but India is also among those 3 countries which are seeing the worst condition in disparity of stunting also. 3 worst countries which are seeing disparity in stunting are Nigeria, Indonesia, and I already told you, 3rd one is India only, and where the levels varied 4-fold across communities. I told you already, 4-fold. Okay, so we have seen that disparities on a stunting means that a society has 4 strata which are having different kinds of different levels of different percentage of stunting in children, and India is also having 4-fold disparity in stunting. The report says that India will miss targets for all 4 nutritional indicators for which data is available. So which are the 4 nutritional indicators for which data is available? These are stunting among under the age of 5 children, anemia among women of reproductive age, that is 19 to 49 as already mentioned, childhood overweight condition, and exclusive breastfeeding till the month of 6. These are 4 nutritional indicators for which data is available, and India will miss all these 4 targets, the report says that. Does that mean that India is not improving at all? Yeah, India is improving, that is fine, but the rate of improvement is not adequate so that we can meet the 2025 target. So what is the condition? If we talk about the underweight condition in India, it was observed that between 2000 and 2016, rates of underweight have decreased from 66% to 58% for boys and 54 to 50% for girls, but this rate is very low. If we compare with the girls of Asia and boys of Asia, other nations, we see that this is a still high compared to the average of 35.6% for boys and 31% for girls. What data we have for India? For India we have for boys 58% underweight, and for girls we have 50% underweight. But other Asian countries average is 35% only for the boys, compare 58 and 35, and for girls the other Asian countries average is 31.8% only. We have 50% girls who are underweight in India, and other Asian countries average is 31.8% only. you can say overall Asia. So India will be also included in this average thing. So we talked about underweight. Now talk about stunting and wasting. 37.9% of children under age 5 years are stunted and 20.8% are wasted compared to the Asia's average of 22.7% and 9.4% only. So for a stunting we have 37.9% under the age of 5, and for wasting we have 20%. But in Asia average is 22% only and 9.4% only. See, 37 compared to 22 and 20 compared to 9.4. That is why India's condition is very problematic. Now talk about anemia also. 1 in 2 women of reproductive age is anemia. Can you see this? Almost half of the women in reproductive age are anemic in India, while at the same time rate of overweight and obesity continues to rise. That is double burden of deficiency, affecting almost a fifth of the adults at 21.6% of women and 17% of men. They are anemic. So that was all about Global Nutrition Report. Now coming to a very big topic again, a State of World's Forest Report 2020. This report is not coming by a single organization. This report is combinedly released by UNEP, that is United Nations Environment Programme, and Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Both of these have joined hands together and released a report. The report is titled The State of the World's Forest Report 2020. In short, we can call it a State of the World's Forest SOFO Report 2020. This report analyzes the contribution of forest for the society and contribution of the people who use and manage the forest. So for sustainability, what do we want? For sustainability, we want the survival of the forest also and the survival of the mankind also, because both of them depend on each other, because agriculture is done by human and agriculture has a direct relation with the forest. So we don't have to cut trees, we have to reduce the number of tree cutting, and when trees are saved, they provide us oxygen and reduce the global warming. So that is why there is interoperability or interdependency. So we have to examine the contribution of forest and also of the people who use and manage them. For example, forest dwellers, tribes living in the forest area, so that the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity is done for the welfare of the mankind and globe. The global level we have set, United Nations has set some targets, global targets in towards achieving forest biodiversity. So for that, this report is released as an assessment. But this report is not the parent report. The parent report is Food and Agriculture Organization's Global Forest Resources Assessment 2020, that is FRA 2020. Forest Resources Assessment 2020 report is released by Food and Agriculture Organization, and this SOFO report draws upon that FRA report 2020. So Food and Agriculture Organization releases Global Forest Resources Assessment 2020, and then United Nations Environment Programme works over it and releases State of the World's Forest Report 2020. So we have to know that what is Global Forest Resource Assessment 2020. FRA 2020 or Forest Resources Assessment 2020 report examines the status and trends of more than 60 variables. We are checking here 60 variables and their status and trends related to the extent, characteristic, condition, management and use of forest across 236 countries. How we are managing the forest, how we are using the forest, what is the condition and characteristic of the forest, what is the extent of the forest. We will see these conditions according to 6 variables over the period of 1990 to 2020. Can you see this? 30 years a span of time. Now let's talk about the key findings from this SOFO report. First of all, see the forest as a habitat. The report says that about habitat we can see that 80% of the amphibian species, 75% of the bird species and 68% of mammal species are dependent on forest for their habitats. So only animals? No. 60% of the all vascular plants are present in tropical forest only. Obviously, almost all vascular plants will be present in forest. Outside forest, there is very less availability. But the report says that in the tropical forest, almost 60% of the all vascular plants are present. Also, the report says that forests support the mankind also. How? The forests provide more than 86 million green jobs. Green jobs are which jobs? Which are dependent on forest and do not cause any pollution. So green jobs are supported by forest. 86 million green jobs are supported by forest, and also it supports the livelihood of estimated 880 million of people worldwide, and most of them are women, because you know the women are cutting the trees for example, for Tendu leaves, women are going, forest dwellers are going, and they are collecting firewood also. So that's why women are involved in large extent. In fact, the BD making leaf, that is Tendu leaf and all are mostly collected by women only. So the livelihood which is provided by forest to the mankind, that is 880 million in number, in that the larger extent of livelihood is provided to women. So India's state of forest report says about the India's forest cover, but this report says about, SOPO report says about the global forest cover, and it says that 31% of the global land area is covered by forest. Also the report says that world's forest, more than half of the 50% of the world's forests are present only in 5 countries. India is not one of them. Brazil, Canada, China, Russia and USA. Brazil is very famous for tropical rainforest. So Brazil, Canada, China, Russia and USA together make half of the world's forest. Report says that deforestation and forest degradation is happening, and this is threatening forest and biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity is happening, but the rate at which deforestation and forest degradation were happening, that has decreased. But between 2015 and 2020, in a span of 5 years, the rate of deforestation has decreased as we compare to 1990s. So that is a positive development, but not very positive, because there is decrease in rate of forest degradation and deforestation, but that is not going to achieve the targets of global biodiversity conservation. The rate is still slow. The rate is still slow means the forest degradation and deforestation is still happening, but to a lower extent, to a lower speed. More than 100 million hectares of forests are adversely affected by forest fire, which are very much happening these days due to global warming probably and the climate change. The forest fires, pests, disease, invasive species, drought and adverse weather events, these are affecting more than 100 million hectares of forest land. As I told you already, the agriculture is the main driver of deforestation, forest fragmentation and also associated loss of forest biodiversity. Agriculture is the main culprit. The expansion of agriculture for sustaining human population is causing deforestation, forest fragmentation and associated loss of biodiversity, and that is the main culprit. India has a very bad condition in this, because India has a dense human population and intense agricultural practices, land uses. So we are encroaching upon the forest land in India. That is very well observed in this report, and the report says that in India, in terms of biodiversity, we have major problem because of agriculture. The report also says that if we continue doing this current negative trend in biodiversity and ecosystem, if we undermine our ecosystem, then our progress towards the achievement of 17 sustainable development goals will also be slowed down, because when forests are not present or forests are decreasing, our sustainable development goals like pollution, water availability, air and everything, those will be very much affected. United Nations Strategic Plan of Forests had said that we need to increase forest area cover by 3% in the worldwide by 2030. Now the United Nations Strategic Plan for Forests says that we are not on the right track. So we will not be meeting this target of achieving forest cover, increase in forest cover by 3% in the worldwide by 2030. We are not going to achieve that increase of 3% worldwide. कुछ और सुनिए इस FRA 2020 जो फूड एंड एग्रीकल्चर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने निकाला उस रिपोर्ट के बारे में. Now we are talking about forest regeneration. You know that we are degrading the forest, but we also are artificially compensating for the forest loss. So the report says that area of naturally regenerating forest is decreasing because we are cutting the forest. The natural forests are being cut since 1990s, but we are also generating some artificial area with the forest because we are planting seeds and saplings to compensate for the forest loss. You know the initiative in India also, the Campa, right? For the industrial cutting of the trees, we need to compensate for new trees, right? So, but those are artificially planted forest. So artificially planting is increasing, but that is not going to compensate for the whole forest loss because these plantings are not very well planted. They are not planned and they are not the original seeds, and they are also less in number and they are not very well planned. So the people just replace them with the new plants, but those plants are not going to grow in such short a span of time that they will provide you oxygen with the hundreds of years of trees to the same level. No, that is not going to happen. So The natural forests are decreasing, but the artificially planted forests are increasing in number. That is a forest regeneration thing found by this report, and that is a very natural understanding also. Also, the report says that Asia had highest net gain of forest area, while Africa had largest annual rate of net forest loss. Right? एशिया में फॉरेस्ट का गेन क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि हम आर्टिफिशियली जो है कंपनीज वगैरह उसको रिप्लेस कर रही हैं. But in Africa, we do not have such laws and such initiatives. The Africa, the forests are just being cut, and they are not going to even they are not even being replaced by the new initiative of the companies and industrialists and the government. So Africa sees the highest annual rate of net forest loss, while Asia has seen the highest net gain of forest area. Report says that 18% of the worldwide forests are in protected areas category. 25% of the forests of the worldwide, they are primary forests. And what does that mean? Being a primary forest mean that forest where there is no clearly visible indication of human activities, completely safe and secure forests are known as primary forest. And worldwide, among the forests, 25% of the forests are completely primary forest. We know that out of the forest of the world, 18% is present in protected area. But which country has its highest share of forest in protected area? South America has the highest share of forest in protected area. We are talking about the continent here, not country, sorry. So South America has highest share of forest in protected area, and that share is 31%. That is a very good number, because the global average is 18% only. Report says that forest fire is the prevalent forest disturbance in the tropics, and in the tropical areas, tropical forest, 4% of the tropical forest loss is caused by forest fire. Also, very precarious situation, there is decrease in carbon stock. Carbon stock, that is carbon equivalent to the forest area, how much carbon they absorb, that is why we call it carbon stock. So there is decrease in carbon stock. The total carbon stock in forest has decreased from 668 gigatons in 1990s to 662 gigatons in 2020. See, there is a decrease of almost 6 gigatons of carbon equivalent or carbon stock because of forest degradation and forest cutting. So we always discuss the organizations releasing the report. So this forest report was released by FAO, and UNEP worked over it. So we need to understand what is Food and Agriculture Organization. See, Food and Agriculture Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations that leads international efforts to defeat hunger. So why it is dealing with forest? Because forest, agriculture and hunger, everything is interrelated. It was established in 1945, and currently it has almost 194 member countries, and it is headquartered in Rome, Italy. These things you should remember. What is United Nations Environment Program? Everybody knows that it is a leading global environment authority that sets the global environmental agenda and promotes coherent implementation of the environmental dimension of sustainable development and United Nations system. You should just remember that United Nations Environment Program is headquartered at Nairobi, Kenya. See, no European, no American country. The headquarters of UNEP is Nairobi in Kenya. And Nairobi is capital of the Kenya. This was created because during the meeting of the United Nations, there was a fight among US and Russia because of the Cold War. So that time Russia raised a voice that you are in the meeting, you haven't invited the East Germany. That time East Germany was under Russia, and the West Germany was independent nation. Both were independent nation, you can say that, but East Germany was a communist country. So USA denied entry of East Germany in the United Nations meeting about environment. So that moment Russia protested. By hearing the voice of Russia, these African countries and Asian countries also protested in a way that no, we do not get a platform. So USA said that no, we are with you, just to do away with this Russia problem, Cold War problem. So these countries took an opportunity and said that you already have all the United Nations headquarters in other countries, European countries and Western countries. So why don't you create UNEP and provide us the headquarters? The USA agreed, Russia also agreed, the other countries also agreed. So that is why United Nations Environment Program headquarters went to Nairobi, Kenya. Okay, you should know that. Our next topic is a star rating of garbage free cities. A star rating doesn't mean it's talking about hero and actors. That is not the star. It is about 1 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. This is a star rating of garbage free cities. See, this is talking only about cities, and the condition is related to garbage. So this is announced by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, because talking only about the cities. Mohua ministry releases this star rating for the garbage free cities condition, and it has released it recently for the year of assessment year of 2019 to 2020. So how many stars were given to how many countries? See, 70 cities were given 70 cities were given 1 star, 65 cities were given 3 star, and only 6 cities were given the 5-star rating by this Mohua. So the 5-star rating cities were Ambikapur in Chhattisgarh. You see the Chhattisgarh, Ambikapur, okay, and Madhya Pradesh, Indore. These two cities are always topping in cleanliness. So Ambikapur of Chhattisgarh, Indore of Madhya Pradesh, Navi Mumbai of Maharashtra, and Surat and Rajkot of Gujarat. These are the 6 cities which have got 5-star by Mohua in the star rating of garbage free cities. We have got the data of 1920. When was this initiative launched? A star rating protocol was launched by Mohua in 2018. 2018 it was launched, and it was to institutionalize a mechanism for cities to achieve garbage free status. Only when you achieve this garbage free status, only then you can achieve this Swachh Bharat mission of urban. Okay, so we can say that intention of this star rating of garbage free cities by Mohua, which was institutionalized in 2018, is that we must achieve this Swachh Bharat mission urban. So we can say that it is a component of Swachh Bharat mission urban. There are 12 parameters for this. You should not know those parameters, but all those parameters follow a SMART framework. What does that mean? S for single metric, M for measurable. That means single metric. All the cities will be measured on the same metric, not the different metrics. Okay, there will be equality. Single metric, and that should be measurable, not very vague. That should be achievable, not extraordinary that you are not even to achieve only. Then rigorous verification mechanism, that whatever inputs we are getting from the citizens and the other people, these must be verified. So that is the condition. And also the outcomes which are coming, that should be the targeted towards outcomes. These metrics should be targeted towards the outcome. We are always looking forward for the outcome thing in any rating, any initiative. So that is a SMART framework for 12 parameters of this star rating of garbage free cities, which is an intention and initiative for making Swachh Bharat mission urban successful. So there are 12 parameters, but components how many? There are 24 different components, and all are related to solid waste management in the cities, and cities are graded according to all those 24 components. First of all, there is self-assessment done and self-verification done for a star rating. That means citizens will respond to questionnaire, and they will say that what they think about their municipality and the cities, and that should be a very transparent, and self-declaration is always good, but the people can always extrapolate, they can always oversay or undersay. So for that, self-declaration is further verified through an independent third party is recruited, and that third party verifies the citizens' claim about a star rating of garbage free cities, and third party is appointed by Mohua ministry. So finally, when the star rating comes, the star rating of garbage free cities come. Now you know that Swachh Bharat mission, we always have this Swachh Sarvekhan. So this star rating of the cities, there will be some weightage which will go in Swachh Sarvekhan finally. Got it? So this star rating of garbage free cities of Mohua has a component in Swachh Sarvekhan ranking also. There is a significant weightage of this score, a star rating score, in final assessment of Swachh Sarvekhan. And Swachh Sarvekhan is what? That is annual urban cleanliness survey conducted by the government under Swachh Bharat mission. Now come to a very interesting topic, Open Budget Survey 2019. Obviously the name says it all. This survey looks into the openness of a country's budget, how much in public domain country's budget information is present, and how much citizens are involved in making of the budget. That is released by an international organization known as International Budget Partnership. And what is that? First of all, we will study the organization itself. International Budget Partnership. This is a collaborative effort of multiple actors are present there, and they collaborate together for releasing this particular open budget survey. International budget partnership is a collaborative effort of multiple actors, and the actors involved are civil society, state actors also, international institutions also, and the private sector also. It was formed in 1997, and remember that this is not a part of United Nations or something. This is a collaborative approach of civil society, state actors, international institutions, and private sector. The intention of this organization, created in 1997, is to promote transparent and inclusive government budget process. Okay, because the stakeholders of a budget are citizen only, so people should know that their economy, their country, how much they are doing for the country's citizens. For example, a country spending too much on defense, that can be, I mean, problematic for the citizens of their country. Maybe the country needs a safety and security measure also, but there may be excessive expenditure on defense. That can happen. So citizens should have a voice in creating the budget. Citizens should know that what budget they are getting in the next year. There should be a midterm review also. And that transparent and inclusive government budget process means there will be improvement in governance and improvement in service delivery in the developing world particularly. So this is the theme of this organization, International Budget Partnership, created in 1997. So Open Budget Survey 2019, okay, 2019 was released by International Budget Partnership. See, this report surveys 117 countries, mostly the developing countries, and also this is a biannual survey. Biannual means coming once in 2 years, and biannual means coming twice in 1 year. Okay, so this report is coming biannually and for 117 countries. So this survey evaluates each country on the basis of availability of key budget documents. Key budget documents should be available to public, whether it's central budget or a state budget, that should be made public, and also assesses whether these are made public in a timely manner, or they are I mean, they might be published post facto. Okay, post facto, after 2 or 3 years, that what budget we had. No, this should be declared to public in a timely manner, and also the information provided should be very comprehensive to the public. This particular open budget survey gives ranking, and also there is a scoring of 0 to 100. So if you have a score of 100, that means you are very, I mean, absolutely your country's budget survey, your country's budget is almost 100% open, and this is made public, and there is full transparency. But obviously no country will achieve the full transparency. 0 to 100 is a score. So let's now talk about global scenario and also about Indian scenario in open budget survey. Let's talk about global scenario. There is improvement in overall score. Report says that there is modest global improvement in budget transparency. थोड़ा सा सुधार हुआ है, which is consistent with the overall trend measured by the survey over the past decade. Past decade में जो ट्रेंड देखा गया था वही ट्रेंड मेंटेन्ड है 2019 में भी, और थोड़ा सा स्लाइट इंप्रूवमेंट तो है. तो स्लाइट इंप्रूवमेंट क्या है? ग्लोबल एवरेज ट्रांसपेरेंसी स्कोर जो है, ग्लोबल एवरेज ट्रांसपेरेंसी स्कोर जो है, वो देखिए कि 100 में आउट ऑफ 145 है, तो मॉडरेट है, बहुत ज्यादा तो ट्रांसपेरेंट नहीं हुआ, अभी 50% ट्रांसपेरेंसी भी नहीं है, बट वी हैव दिस स्कोर ऑफ 45 विच कैन बी अप्रिसिएटेड, विच कैन बी एक्नॉलेज्ड. Since 2008, the average global score for transparency has increased by 20%. 2008 से 2008 से अगर कंपेयर करें 2019 का, तो जो एवरेज ग्लोबल स्कोर है ट्रांसपेरेंसी बजट का, दैट हैज इंक्रीज्ड बाय 20%. ओके, एंड द टॉप स्कोरर्स आर, सी, न्यूजीलैंड टॉप्स द चार्ट विद स्कोर ऑफ 87, ऑलमोस्ट ट्रांसपेरेंट बजट प्रेजेंट इन न्यूजीलैंड. ओके, publication also there. See, first component is global average transparency score. Now we are talking about publication of audit and legislative reports. Whatever audit report has come, whatever legislative report related to, for example, you have Financial Act, right? You don't have a budget in your legal term, you have Financial Act. So that Financial Act and your audit by the CAG, those are made public or not, that is also a component. Only 30 of the 117 countries have adequate scores for both audit and legislative oversight. What about citizens' participation in budget making? Average global score on citizens' participation in budget making remains 14 out of 100. Obviously, no country wants its citizens to be directly involved in budget making, so that will be the lowest score out of various components. So global average in citizens' participation in budgeting or budget making process is only 14 out of 100. Now we will talk about India. Out of 117 nations, India's rank is 53rd. You should know that, you should remember that, in terms of budget transparency and accountability. India got a transparency score of 49 out of 100, and I told you already that the average, global average is transparency, for the transparency thing, global average is 45 and India got 49. So that is a good thing. Transparency score of India's budget making process is 49 out of 100 and the global average is only 45. Citizens participation. The public participation in its budget is an area of concern, and report says that India should improve upon citizens participation in budget making process. Obviously government makes the budget and twist the public opinion according to that. So citizens participation in India's budget is very less. So that is a concern, the report says that. What about publication of audit reports? India performs well in publishing timely and relevant information in audit reports because your CAG is very active and a very constitutional body and very free body. That's why in the publication of audit reports, India is very good scoring. What about publication of pre-budget statement, that what budget we are bringing upon in the next financial year? Where this is the area where we are lagging behind. Absence of a published pre-budget statement. We do not have a pre-budget statement this year, and we did not even bring out the mid-year review in 2018-19. So our score in this publication of pre-budget statement was pulled down, as the report says that. Now come to our last topic, that is Energy Transition Index released by World Economic Forum. This is an annual ranking, almost surveys the 115 economies or countries of the world, and what it deals with. This Energy Transition Index deals on the current performance of countries' energy systems across economic development and growth, environmental sustainability, energy security, and also access indicators, that which people are having access to energy and their readiness for transition to secure, sustainable, affordable and inclusive energy system. What does that mean? The long sentence, it says that, see, in the changing global scenario for the climate conservation, for achieving the Paris climate goals, we need to transform our energy uses. For example, today we are using the non-renewable energy sources. Now tomorrow we need to use renewable energy sources. We need to depend on hydroelectricity. We need to depend on electric vehicles. So how much energy transition we are making towards that? Are we going from coal towards wind power? Are we going from petroleum towards solar power? So that the report says and sees about Energy Transition Index. So let's talk about it more. Let's talk about the index rankings. See, Sweden is topping the index for the last 3 years, and this year also Sweden is at the top. Obviously Finland and Switzerland will follow this, because these North European countries, particularly Finland, okay, these Nordic countries will always be at the top. So Sweden is topping this chart since last 3 years, and after that the second position occupied by Switzerland, because Switzerland releases the report. That may be a condition, that may be no, Switzerland is not ranked because World Economic Forum is present in Switzerland. Switzerland is actually working towards energy transition. That is why it is ranked at second position, and the first rank is by Sweden, third is by Finland. These are the top 3 countries. France and UK are 8th at 7th position. You should be happy, but you should not be happy because these are the only 2 G20 countries which are present in top 10. And you know that G20 countries are the world's largest economies, world's strongest economies, and they determine the global order. So they should have a very good ranking here, because the impact they made, the impact France or UK makes will be very large on the global scale compared to Finland and Sweden and Switzerland. So we needed to have more countries of G20 in rank 1 to 10. Obviously we wanted India to be also there, but is it India there? No, India is not there. Only France and UK are present in top 20s, which are also G20 countries. India is also a G20 country. You should know that. Can you tell me the structure of G20? When was it created, and when India participated in it last time? When was the meeting conducted? Some detail about the G20 in 3 or 4 lines. You can comment over that. Somebody will learn that. I have read the comments, and I think World Economic Forum, somebody commented very well. All the reports released by World Economic Forum, where the headquarters is situated, when was it made. I was very happy to read that comment about the World Economic Forum, and I think today I will skip the introduction and detail about World Economic Forum, because you can go through the first lecture or second lecture, and in those on YouTube only, in comments we have full detail of World Economic Forum by a very kind person. There are some major economies, major countries which have seen consistent annual improvement in this Energy Transition Index, and those countries are Argentina, China, Italy और हमारा प्यारा भारत. So India is consistently improving in energy transition index, being a major economy also. And why India is improving, you already know. India is working towards wind power, solar power, everything. China is ranked at 78th. Why this low score of China? Because China has a problem air pollution. But this rank of China is an improvement. Why that? Because there was problem of air pollution. So China is moving towards policies which will control carbon emission. China is moving towards electric vehicles. China is developing the world's largest capacity for solar photovoltaic cells, and also China has a huge coastline. So China is developing onshore wind power plants, and that is why the rank of 78 of China is an improvement over the last year. China is doing very well. China is improving. Scores of US, Canada, Brazil and Australia were either stagnant or declining. So we do not have any purpose with Australia, Brazil and Canada. But you should know that US being a very large economy and very polluting country because of its industries and army, US score is declining or stagnant in this energy transition index. That is a very sad state of affairs. You can see that US ranks outside the top 25% for the first time. Before that, US was doing very well. This is the first time that US is not even in top 25% economies which are doing very well in this energy transition index. And this is happening particularly because of uncertain regulatory outlook of the energy transition in US. Government is not doing very well in these areas. They are always fighting over other things, visa and trade war and all. They're not focusing on energy transition index. They are not focusing on Paris climate deal. In fact, Trump moved out of that deal. You should know that. Report says that 75% of the world's countries have improved their environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability means their environment will be okay and the people will also be okay together. So that thing is improved in 75% of the countries of the global scene. Why this is happening? 75% of the countries have improved on their environmental sustainability. That progress is because the countries are taking multifaceted incremental approaches. For example, carbon pricing, retiring old coal plants ahead of a schedule, right? Because you know the old coal plants will be polluting more. So they are retiring them and creating new coal plants or new renewable energy plants. Redesigning electricity market to integrate renewable energy sources. You know, we are using our solar energy in electricity market today, and we have net meter and everything for the solar energy today. And a study measuring readiness for clean energy transition in 115 economies shows that 94 have made progress since 2015. Okay, particularly readiness for clean energy component of this report says that 94 have made progress since 2015. That is a very good number. Since 2015 till 2020, 94 countries have made progress in this clean energy sector. Greatest overall progress is observed among emerging economies. That is a very good news, that emerging economies which need the industries most, they are improving the most in this energy transition index. So now let's talk about India. India has moved up to 2 positions to the rank of 74th. Last year India was at 76th position. Today India is at 74th position, 4 places ahead of China, because India has done improvements in all 3 dimensions of energy triangle. What is the dimension of energy triangle? First dimension is economic development and growth. Second is energy access and security. You know, many people are getting access to electricity now. Environmental sustainability also we are dealing with. So these 3 components are energy triangle components, and India has done improvement in all these 3 dimensions. And why this is happening? Remember, government wants to add 275 gigawatt of solar energy or renewable energy, you can say that, renewable energy expansion of program of government is that by 2027 we will be adding new 275 gigawatt of renewable energy in our economy. So these are the improvements and these are the plans of government. Also, you know the various scheme of government. For example, government provided you, already told you, BEE organization in the last lecture, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Government provided you subsidized LED bulbs, smart meters and programs for labeling of appliances like AC, cooler, everything. Also, there are measures taken by government and Niti Aayog for the experimental and at the pilot level. We are experimenting with electric vehicles and charging point stations. So these initiatives are giving us good ranking in energy transition index. We are moving towards using renewable energy from non-renewable energy. In the last slide, I wanted to discuss World Economic Forum, but I already told you that in the second lecture or first lecture, a very kind person has commented about World Economic Forum and all the reports released by it. So either you can pause this lecture here and see these reports. Okay, I will explain. Swiss, this is a Switzerland based organization, right? Headquarter is in Geneva. This was established in 1971. Here public private cooperation is done. Businessmen, actor, actresses, state heads, for example Modi, Trump, everyone will go there. There will be ministerial meetings also. So all those kinds of meetings are happening, and I think this is a very good competitor to United Nations. Other major reports, there are various reports released by World Economic Forum, you can Google that, but major reports are Global Risk Report, Global Travel and Tourism Report, Global IT Report, Global Gender Gap Report, very important, and last one is Global Competitiveness Report. So these are the major reports. Other reports are also there. You can see the comment below lecture 1 or lecture 2, you will come to know that. That's all for today. See you on the Monday, because we are taking off on Saturday and Sunday. So Monday we will start with a new topic of the March month. So let's wait for that. Tata, bye bye.